Welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. My name is Lou Perez. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing. Whether you're a longtime listener or first time, 5-star reviews are lovely. And I just might read yours on the air. How about that? A lot of big things happening. One of the biggest is I have a book coming out. It's titled That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, and it's going to be published by Bombardier Books, Post Hill Press. So that's coming out later this year. To stay up on release dates and all that, please check out my newsletter at thelouperez.com. And you can also join my community at thelouperez.locals.com. If you haven't been on Locals yet, if you join up, you get to listen to my podcast early. You'll get to watch my sketch comedy early. And also you have access to exclusive content and me. If you're looking for other ways that you can support me, you can do so by supporting my sponsors. If you're into CBD products, please check out palomaverdecbd.com. And if you use promo code Lou, you'll get 25% off purchases over $75. And if you're into cold brew, check out Black Organic Cold Brew. www.blvckbrew.com and use promo code Lou for free shipping. All right, I think that's about it. Let's go. I'm very happy to be joined by Jen Monroe. You might know her as that Jen Monroe. Oh my God, I already fucked up. I'm so sorry, Jen. That Jen Monroe over on Twitter. She also has a Substack, and this is something I'm really interested in hearing about. You have a new podcast that you're doing, ambitious crossover attempt. So why don't we start there? Can you tell us about your podcast? We'll get the plug in early on.
Sure. And as far as mispronouncing people's names, I mispronounce my co-host name all the time because I just cannot pronounce his name correctly. But he forgives me, though. Yeah, it's Ambitious Crossover Attempt. It's me and Noam Blum. You know him as Neon Taster on Twitter. And we have a podcast. We just put out episode 2. So technically there's 3 episodes out as of this recording, episode 0, 1, and 2. And basically the concept is kind of discussing the sort of Twitter trends of the week, the sort of news trends of the week, and how things kind of cross over, like streams kind of cross into each other, and kind of how everything ends up as like kind of like a big mismatch, and just kind of like sorting through it. And just because we are the way we are, there always ends up being tangents and off-topic conversations because this is just who we are. But yeah, that's our new project now.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who is, hearing about you for the first time, I got to say that Jen is one of my favorite follows on Twitter. Oh, and I think part of it is you're so insightful and level-headed with the way that you approach things, where it's sort of like I feel like there isn't a lot of that. Like there's a lot of extremes on Twitter, and I'm guilty of it myself, especially if I'm going for jokes. Then I'm gonna take sort of like an extreme sort of angle on it. But I think you do a really great job of just kind of parsing reality and from bullshit. And while I look forward to, if you continue that with your podcast, I'm looking forward to hearing that for sure.
Oh yeah, we definitely plan on continuing, and thank you for the praise. I try. I know how the Twitter game is played. I know what you have to do for likes and retweets. I just don't want to do it because I have a soul and I have to look at myself in like the mirror every day. So, I just kind of try to keep it somewhat sane and authentic to myself and how I feel and kind of what I'm thinking, instead of trying to like chase clout and try to get clicks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like what is, I guess one thing that I find is, especially when you see like anonymous people online on Twitter in particular, so many of them, it's like, you're anonymous. You could have chosen to be the most interesting person in the world, and yet you've decided to just kind of be, I guess an NPC sort of thing, where, the one thing is, if I was anonymous, I would definitely be I would definitely approach everything like I was a lot better looking than I am. Like that would be the first thing. I would just have so much swagger and just kind of go, go that route. But
who is it? I think it's, who is it, Scott Greer, that has in his little Twitter like actual name his height and his IQ. You could be that guy.
I could be that guy, or pretend to be that guy, and I think that would be the way to go. So what is what's been every day there's something happening on Twitter, but what's been the thing that has kind of been eating up all your attention? Where are you at today, or at this moment?
Well, we are coming off the first week of the year at this point, and obviously we had the 1-year anniversary of the 1/6 riot, peaceful protest, insurrection, whatever you prefer to call it. And obviously we had the commemoration of that, and that bizarre Hamilton crossover with the 1/6 anniversary, and I'm not entirely sure where they were going with that.
I didn't get to watch it. No, I heard about it. And what was it like? Was it an actual scene from Hamilton?
No, it was during the well, this is all via Zoom too, because you can't do things in person. For some reason, Nancy Pelosi just kind of threw it to Lin-Manuel Miranda, who gave this kind of mushy statement. And then the cast members from Hamilton came and sang a song from Hamilton. And yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, what? I thought this was supposed to be like akin to 9/11, and now we're having a musical interlude. I'm very confused. I don't know what's going on here.
Well, what makes it weirder? I don't know if you know about this, but there was some controversy some years back with Lin-Manuel Miranda, where he attended a performance of Hamilton in Chicago with a member of a Puerto Rican terrorist group that had recently been either pardoned or released. I think it Oscar Lopez, I believe, was the member. So it was Oscar Lopez Rivera, and he was a member of the Fuerzas Armadas de Liberación Nacional Puertorriqueña, Fallon, and he spent, decades in jail because of terrorist activity, planting bombs all over the place and trying to win independence for Puerto Rico. And one of the bombs, and I forget what role he played in it, but one of the bombs was placed in a restaurant. It killed, I believe, at least one policeman and wounded maybe a few other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know about that. And there was, Lin-Manuel Miranda saying, we respect you and love you so much that here's a ticket to the hottest musical in town, and I'm going to be your date. And it's funny that, you sort of juxtapose that, where like, oh, so if you're, bombing the Capitol or trying to do something like that to overthrow the U.S. government to win independence for Puerto Rico, that's okay. But if you're one of the people on 1/6 doing it, then we're not about that.
Yeah, kind of a weird choice of date there, my dude. Was there nobody else you could ask? Nobody?
Yeah.
Nobody in Chicago?
Did you ever see Hamilton? Did you ever see the actual play?
No, because and this is my own personal tendency. Once something gets hyped too much, I'm not doing it. So I'm not watching Hamilton. I don't want to watch Hamilton. I don't like musicals. So no, I'm not watching Hamilton.
I got to see it definitely at the height of the hype. And I got to be honest, it lived up to it. They were doing a lot of things on stage that I was really blown away by. It was a little long. I felt like kind of an old man towards the end. I was like, look, shave 30 minutes and we'll be good. But I had a friend of mine who actually reminded me when I lived in Los Angeles, we were driving back from I think it was like an open mic, and he had the recording of Hamilton. He was playing it in his car, and he reminded me not too long ago that I made fun of it the first time I heard it in the car. So it was like without any context of it, without actually seeing it live, I actually made fun of it. So I have that, going for me, that it was that I thought it was a corny thing.
Mhm.
the start. Yeah.
But yeah, just I have no desire to see it, and it was just a weird thing to throw in there. And then of course you had Ted Cruz's apology for calling them terrorists, which he's been doing ever since 1/6 of 2021, but apparently now it's a problem. So he had to go on Tucker and apologize and do this long tweet thread, and it was just almost embarrassed for Ted Cruz. I almost feel bad for him, but not really. Nah.
Well, yeah. What is up with that? Just sort of. Are there any? Does anyone do like genuine apologies anymore? Are there any genuine apologies out there? Oh.
I would say probably 85% of them are performative, but even the ones that are sincere, they're not going to be accepted in good faith anyway. So it's almost to this point where, like, do you even bother? Like, do you even address this in public? And at a certain level, like, you have to, but then it's like, is there really any point? Because nobody's going to take this seriously and everyone's still going to trash you for it anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much where Ted Cruz ended up. He did this long apology for, like, I wasn't calling everybody a terrorist, just the people that were attacking cops. And everyone's just like, oh, you shut up. Like, just go away. Just stop talking, please.
I've been enjoying a little troll where I basically treat any criticism of Ted Cruz as anti-Hispanic racism. so I go at people with that, and I'm like, here they are trying to take down, yet another Latin symbol of masculinity, and they're coming at him, because they're trying to take away our people and all that.
Latinx.
Yes.
Latinx.
The Latinx.
He's Latinx. This Latinx man is being attacked.
Right. Well, that's, I mean, part of my reasoning behind it is just to, just show just how ridiculous identity politics is. It's like, if you don't think it's silly, just imagine if every single time someone criticized Ted Cruz, you were charged with being a racist, as opposed to, like, having legitimate opinions on the guy.
Yeah, you're racist against half Hispanic Canadians.
Yeah, did we ever figure that out? Like, what? I remember there was a whole thing of whether or not he was eligible to even run for president.
To the best of my knowledge, he does have American citizenship. I think he ended up renouncing his Canadian citizenship and becoming just doing straight U.S. citizenship when he did decide to run. So I don't think he has any Canadian citizenship anymore. But yeah, he was born in Canada, but his parents were American. You know how that whole thing goes. If your parents are American, you're born abroad, you're technically considered an American, but you're also Canadian because you're born in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Dual citizenship, fun stuff.
The dual citizenship. Talking about, like, apologizing, I think, we all remember when, on the campaign trail when Trump, I think he was on stage, actually. Didn't he? Was he on stage with Ted Cruz when he accused Ted Cruz's dad of being a part of the JFK assassination?
I forget if he was on stage with him or not, but I mean, there was that. There was him basically saying Heidi Cruz is ugly. Like, you called the man's wife ugly. You said his dad killed JFK. But here he is now. I mean, and actually, I was reminded the other day, I think Ted Cruz was one of the ones who was trying to kind of plan the idea of sort of hijacking the 2016 convention and basically, like, freezing Trump out and making sure that he did not become the nominee at the convention, which obviously that didn't happen because technically there's a mechanism for doing that, but nobody's going to do that. Yeah,
I remember there was something like, he didn't give, like, an official endorsement. It's like he didn't say the words, explicitly, I endorse Donald Trump for president. Yeah, such a weird shenanigans.
Yeah, it's weird to think back to 2015, 2016, and how many people hated Donald Trump and hated the idea of him being the nominee and said so publicly. But then once it obviously became that he's going to be the nominee, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, Donald Trump is great. I love Donald Trump. Like, didn't you just hate him 15 minutes ago?
Yeah. I got to go to both the RNC and the DNC at the time. It was my first time ever going to something like that. I'm not not a particularly political person, and it was my first time in Cleveland at the RNC, and I noticed that overall it was like a really kind of like celebratory vibe. Everybody, would seem to be getting along, whereas the DNC, on the other hand, was nuts. It felt like kind of a civil war was brewing outside in Philadelphia, and it was so hot, and just it was so, the stadium was so out of the way, and there were fences that were up. There was a symbolism there that was tough. Yeah,
I remember that, because I remember that the facility was far away from everything, like far away from the hotels and everything. So they were having to like bus people in, and it was just super high security and all that stuff. And then of course you also still had, the Bernie faction still fighting the Biden faction, and there's all that going on. But I would like to go to a DNC and RNC one day. I've not had a chance to go yet, and I guess we'll see for 2024. Who knows? Yeah. But
oh, yeah, and I'm already dating myself. Like, for me, yeah, that was when Trump won the first, back in 2016. That's when I haven't been. Oh my God, I'm already forgetting if they even did RNCs or DNCs this year around.
They were virtual.
The virtual ones, right?
They were both virtual.
Oh my God.
I remember I actually watched them, because this is the hell I put myself through. I actually sat there and watched the Zoom meeting versions of the DNC and the RNC. There was something.
Yeah. What any Hamilton songs come up on that?
You know what? I'm thinking Lin-Manuel Miranda did actually speak at the DNC. If memory serves, he did. The RNC was the one where you had the Melania speech, you had the infamous Kimberly Guilfoyle speech.
Oh, which one was that?
Oh, you've never seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's great. There's questions as to her sobriety, because we kind of it just kind of keeps building throughout the speech until we get to this very large crescendo that makes you wonder, like, is it Adderall? Is it cocaine? What is it? It's something, but we don't know what it is.
Apparently you could snort both, right?
I guess so. I've never done Adderall.
Yeah. What are some other topics that have been hitting for you? I think, you did some coverage on your Substack about Loudoun County, right? The school district and what's happening there. Can you? And I think it is like a perfect example of the type of issue where it's like, okay, guys, if you want to figure out what's going on, check out what Jen has to say about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I ended up writing for my Substack, and I also wrote for Arc Digital on that. That situation was one where it was originally broke by the Daily Wire, because nobody else really wanted to touch this story, because it involved transgender youth, transgender high schoolers. And it was a situation where there was this one particular high schooler. He presented as female. He was living as female, went into the female bathroom and sexually assaulted a student there. Ended up getting transferred to another school where he allegedly assaulted another student there. And it ended up being this very kind of murky thing where the student in question, the first girl that he sexually assaulted, apparently they had some kind of sexual relationship, but this was not consensual sex. And he wasn't, or she, whatever. I'm still confused on the pronoun thing. We'll just go with they. They weren't in the bathroom just kind of like hanging out, waiting to prey on someone, but they were invited by this girl to hook up. But then she decided that they weren't going to hook up that day. Anyway, it ended up being this whole thing. But the controversy came out where it was kind of a twofold thing, where nobody else was really wanting to touch this story. And it kind of popped off because at a school board meeting in Loudon County, the parents of the first girl that was sexually assaulted confronted the school board. And when you see the video, you can kind of clearly hear the mom saying that my daughter was sexually assaulted. And this is the one where the dad got into an altercation with other people at the school board meeting, ended up getting tackled and called out by cops. And so that ended up being a whole really bad optics thing, because it really, being tackled by cops was not necessarily necessary at that particular moment. And then it also came out that it was kind of looking like the school board was trying to just cover the whole thing up by just saying that, no, there was no sexual assault that happened, but then obviously there was, and then it became public, and it turned into just a whole mess. And the whole reason it turned into a mess is because it involved a trans kid. It involved a trans kid in high school, underage, obviously. And that is an extremely sensitive topic that a lot of people don't want to touch for very obvious reasons. But also, there's kind of this, you don't really want to report on that story because there's a transgender kid involved, and because there seems to be this feeling within the trans community, and you kind of see this also around the conversation around like detransitioning and everything, that to address certain issues, even if they're just individual one-off issues, that you're giving the other side ammunition to use against you as an entire group, which it strikes me as kind of ridiculous, because, I mean, anti-trans people are going to come up with something to say no matter what. It doesn't matter what you say or do. They're going to say whatever. So you might as well go ahead and address the issues within your own movement. And plus, you kind of like, there was a feeling that this kid was going to kind of get a pass on all of this until it became this very public situation, and right-wing media latched onto it, and it kind of blew up in their faces. And so, yeah, it was like, if this was just a standard, just regular cisgender boy attacking a cisgender girl in the bathroom, then yeah, that would have been a story that would have been covered because nobody would have been afraid to touch it. But because there was these questions of, okay, and that was the other thing, is not at the time of the sexual assault, but after that, Loudoun County did actually put a policy in place that students could use the bathroom of whatever gender they identify as. So obviously, if you are identifying as a female, you'd use the female bathroom. If you identified as male, you'd use the male bathroom. And so you kind of had that on top of this particular situation, which equaled in a lot of people's mind that, like, that fear that predators are going to start being in the women's bathroom waiting to rape women under the guise of being trans women, which, I mean, that's a completely overblown threat, but it's there. And then you have a story like this that everybody can hold up and say, aha, but it's like, not really. This is one really weird situation that just got weirder the more we started covering it. And I think basically it just kind of ended off as, all right, this situation was a little more murky than originally presented, and everybody just kind of dropped it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I know that this thing happened, but I haven't looked into it deeply enough. So for me, all I knew was it was a trans kid sexually assaulted another student, and then that's all I knew about it. And then as more and more details come out, like you said, it does get a little murky. It does get really really weird. And I wonder if this thing happens when you talk about, minority communities, where it's something like, I don't know if it's because they are minority communities where sort of like one bad apple, if you will, ends up sort of kind of defining the community at large. But then it's like, if you're not willing to address that bad apple and, push that bad apple out, then you're kind of playing into that same game, into that, I don't know, you're playing the game, I guess, going along with it.
Yeah, you're kind of picking and choosing what you want to highlight, not based on the newsworthiness of something or whether it is something worth talking about. You're choosing based on, is this story, is this piece of information going to give the other team ammunition against my team? And that's not how you should be picking and choosing what it is you choose to cover or what it is you choose to accept within your movement.
Yeah. And I mean, what else was going on in Loudoun County too? Because then, I start, seeing clips of like Nicole Hannah Jones talking about racism in the county, and then you have the whole the governor's race and all that. And it's like I'm in New Jersey. Like this is I'm spending way too much time hearing about a state that I have nothing to do with. Like what the hell is going on? Like it started from like this real, a sexual assault, and then it goes into like CRT and all this stuff. Did you dig into that at all?
Well, the thing about Loudoun County is it is very wealthy,
mm-hmm.
and it is very progressive, which is how you end up with these sorts of policies. I mean, in the first place, for lack of a better term there. But so it kind of became like this little microcosm, and it was going on during the Virginia gubernatorial race, which then played into that, which they made CRT into this thing in that race where, I mean, I don't think Loudoun County was ever really addressing that. I don't know entirely. It wasn't kind of part of the scope of this particular story, but it all kind of fed into like this particular right-wing narrative of the wokes are trying to ruin your children through promoting transgenderism and promoting CRT and promoting cultural Marxism and whatever else they want to call it this week. So it kind of came mashed into this like larger ball that kind of like was formed into this particular narrative in order. I mean, I'm not going to say Youngkin pushed it, because he actually managed to stay pretty out of that, which was probably to his best. But yeah, it all became like this whole mess. And then you had guys, I think Matt Walsh was trying to somehow establish residency in Virginia, even though he doesn't live in Virginia, so that he could go to school board meetings and basically show his ass and basically make content, if we're being honest. And yeah, it just became this whole kind of micro cause within a larger cause. And that's how things kind of end up nowadays. Is like everything just kind of gets mashed all together into like a little packaged narrative that you can kind of like push out easily to people.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm the one to coin this, but critical race transgenderism might be the next one. I remember, well, I'm probably not the first one, because I remember seeing headlines for articles that said that anti-trans, if you're anti-trans movements have they start out in like white supremacy and stuff somehow.
Everything starts out in white supremacy.
I mean, white supremacy at this point is basically gravity. It's just it's a force of nature that explains everything.
Yeah, now we're accusing NPR of white supremacy, which
please tell me. Can you tell me about that?
We've made it all the way to NPR. Oh no, there's been a couple of people on Twitter, because I guess NPR's hiring diversity doesn't match up to the diversity in this country as far as percentage wise. Like, okay, there's 26% of the population is Latino, so NPR needs to have 26% of its employees be Latino so that it can be representative.
I gotta get my resume over there. Let me put that in NPR.
Yeah, they might be doing some diversity hires, man. Get in on that.
Like when the hell's it gonna work for me, man? Come on, I gotta lean into this shit.
Yeah, come on, you got the right last name. What are you doing here?
What more do you need?
But yeah, so now I guess NPR is just too white, which NPR has always been too damn white. Where have you people been? Do you not understand their demographic? But now apparently being too white is white supremacy. You hired too many white people, so now you are a tool of white supremacy, even if you are NPR.
Right. Well, tote bags, that's what you carry white supremacy in. You got those NPR totes.
It goes right in there, right next to like the organic peppers, the artisanal bread, and then the white supremacy.
That's right. Your booster shots. You get your booster shots in there as well. Well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Yeah. It is funny when you talk about, when we talk about like the sort of the racial or ethnic makeup of, corporations or businesses, and trying to get, quotas, basically the idea that, if there's if there's 6% of the country are, African American women, therefore you need 6%, blah, blah, blah. But what I often find is that it doesn't even seem to kind of go along with the percentages. It seems like, because if it was like that, then there would be so many people you're like, no, we already have the 15% accounted for, we can't hire you. So I wonder if people are even being honest when it comes to that. It's like, do you really want your representation according to the population, or do you want more than that?
Or do you just want people that can do the damn job?
Oh, that's crazy. There's no way I'm going to get hired by NPR now. Come on, Jen, don't ruin this for me. Shit.
Damn it, I'm sorry. If you're listening, NPR, Lou is great. You should hire him. He can be a great diversity hire. You could also say that you're expanding your political ideology. Look, this is a great hire.
That's right. And I can slow things down and speak in such a manner.
Yeah, you see, he's even got the NPR voice.
Yeah, I could be a very soothing discussion. Today in Israel, blah 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 blah, and all that. Well, I guess talking about the controversy of transgenderism and all that. Is that offensive now too? Transgenderism? It sounds like an ideology if you say transgenderism, as opposed to, I don't know what other word you would use for that.
I don't know either. So we'll just go with that one. I mean, I guess, it's not supposed to be an ideology, but it seems to be an ideology for quite a few people, including people that just want to be mad on the internet for reasons that aren't quite discernible, or they just decided that they don't like Harry Potter anymore. So they want to be mad at J.K. Rowling. And it's wild, and that's why a lot of people don't want to touch that topic, because it's inviting trouble. It's just inviting trouble.
Well, I mean, when it comes to trouble, I guess Dave Chappelle is probably it's like Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling are the two, I guess, lightning rods when it comes to transgender issues, and recently Dave Chappelle was thrown under the bus by a friend of apparently 34 years in Patton Oswalt, who decided to throw Dave Chappelle under the bus that Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of. He just tossed him under. I know that you cover this on one of your episodes, and what's your take on this whole thing?
I mean, this whole thing, I don't understand wanting to throw a friend under the bus for the sake of some random stranger on the internet. Like, who the fuck are you? I don't know you. I know this guy for 34 years. You're some stranger on the internet. Why do I care what you think? Let alone am I going to sit here and stage this photograph of me concentrating very hard, writing this very heartfelt apology. I wrote it all out on the legal pad. You see my picture. I wrote it down, and it's so fucking stupid. And it's almost, I don't think Oswalt did it on purpose, but what's going to happen if you post a picture of yourself with Dave Chappelle. People are going to lose their shit, and you pretty much have to just tell them, go away. This is my friend. But no, you wanted to do this very, very, actually rather hilarious apology. I called it him having main character syndrome, because he basically managed to make this whole thing about him and about how, I don't want to abandon him as a friend, because I have so much guilt about all the other friends I abandoned for their views. And what if I had just stayed in their life? Maybe they wouldn't have gone off the deep end. It's like, dude, who the fuck do you think you are?
Right.
But it's sad and cringy. And I haven't seen anywhere where Chappelle has addressed it. If I was him, I wouldn't either. I would just keep it moving. Now you know what you know, and you can decide what you want to do about that friendship. But it's so fucking ridiculous. You posted a selfie of yourself and your friend for 34 years who very kindly invited you over to perform at his New Year's Eve function, which was much larger than Patton Oswalt's New Year's Eve function. Like, he did you a solid. Like, he said, "Come on over, come just do a pop-up set," and he did, and,
Yeah. But
like,
what
it's just so stupid.
and, just thinking about it, I wonder, and this for everybody out there, right? Like, just imagine, like, how many people out there, like, how long have you been friends with, like, your best friend?
Yeah.
You know, like 34 years. I'm gonna be 40 next month in February,
Mhm,
right? 34 years. That would mean that I was friends with someone since I was 6. Now, obviously, these guys are much older,
mhm.
um, but for me, I have I put such a high value in friendship and for those who I love,
Mhm.
where it's just, I don't know, maybe loyalty and stuff like that gets in the way or can get in the way. But man, at some point, you really do have to say, like, look, this is my friend and I love him, and fuck the world. This is my guy.
Yeah, and, like, who are you to tell me what my friend thinks? Like, I think I might know him a little better than you do.
Mm.
So I'm like, it's just dumb. I'm like, when are you people gonna just learn to tell people to fuck off?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's what's funny too is like, and something I said about cancel culture is like cancel culture uh, will demand that you shun people who have treated you kindly in exchange for people who will one day treat you like garbage. And if you look at the responses to that Patton Oswalt post on Instagram, it's all of these allies or trans allies who are basically saying, "Ew, you're still gross. I can't believe you're still friends with him. How dare you? I would drop him like a bad habit and all that." So here you are trying to appease people who there is no way you could ever appease them. There's
yeah.
no way.
Yeah, there's no credit in the bank of social credit. Mhm.
Right.
Like, you don't there's no balance in there, there's nothing saved up, you don't earn anything, there's no cash back, there's no bonus points, there's no nothing.
Hmm.
It's and it doesn't matter if Patton Oswalt's been a LGBTQA plus, I think I said that right,
Right.
ally for however long he's been that, it doesn't matter to these people because you took a picture with your friend of 34 years who happens to be Dave Chappelle. And
Right.
so now all that goes out the window. It's like these people don't love you. They don't
Hmm.
care about you. They don't even know you. So why torture friendship over these people? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and you know what really what pissed me off about it was that there was one line in particular, or a couple of sentences in the piece. I don't even know what you call that. His IG post
Yeah.
where he was implying that Dave Chappelle doesn't want trans people to be safe in the world. And yeah, I forget what the line was exactly, but he said that he and Dave Chappelle disagree 100% on this issue, and it's like, look, you could have a problem with the jokes that your friend is telling. You could
Mhm.
definitely say, like, look, man, that's insensitive, or I don't see that, see it the same way. I believe, trans women are women, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea that Dave Chappelle doesn't want trans people to be safe in the world is fucking ridiculous. I think it's so gross, and I don't know if it's this go-to thing now where it's this rhetorical device where I can't just disagree with you. I also have to make it seem as though you want to make an unsafe environment for the people, for my allies. And that's the thing that really just fucking bugged me.
Yeah, especially since Dave Chappelle has never said anything of the sort.
Right.
I mean, he's had trans friends. He told the story at the end of the closer. And not that, my trans friend is like an excuse for anything. But yeah, I mean, he's never said that he has an issue with trans people existing or that he doesn't want them to be able to exist safely or be able to live their lives however they want to do it. But that's kind of the bell that everybody rings because that's that emotional bell. It's like, oh, you don't want these people to be safe. You don't want trans people to be safe. You don't want women to be safe. You don't want gay people to be safe. You don't want whoever to be safe. You frame it in that way because that makes that person look like you're some kind of evil monster when you didn't say anything of the sort. But you know that by framing it that way, other people are going to pick up on that and run with it who may not necessarily ever bother to find out what actually was or was not said. All you know is you heard a bunch of people on the internet say that Dave Chappelle doesn't want trans people to be safe, or that Dave Chappelle thinks trans people shouldn't exist. Without ever bothering to go and hear what he said, you just saw that because you saw people you like saying it, or famous people saying it, or whoever saying it, and you just run with that. And that's why people do it, is because it rings that particular emotional bell of making it sound like, oh, you want people to die. Like nobody said anything about anybody dying.
Yeah. I'm a little embarrassed, but like, I think I've watched the last probably 3 or 4 Dave Chappelle specials solely because of the controversy that was raised, because of what I was hearing about them. I was like, well, now I got to go watch it. And now I'm not knocking, that's not a knock on Dave Chappelle, whatever. It's just, I'm busy. I got a lot of shit on my mind. I got a lot of stress on my mind. And I'm even at the point where like, I have so much like stress and shit on my mind that the idea of even cooling out and watching a legendary comedian doesn't even relieve any of that. But yeah, so I came to watch The Closer as I watched the other specials, because I was like, wait, I'm hearing a lot of talk about this, and I have a feeling that people aren't being honest about what's actually being said. And I watched the special. I laughed a bunch because there's a lot of funny shit in it. I think it was a little kind of self-referential, because that's the nature of it, or the, Chappelle over the past however many years dealing with this, with this controversy. But coming to the, the final story that he told, The Closer, I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant story. I thought it was dark. It was sad. It was also hopeful, and it was there were jokes in it. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I mean, Dave's talking about a person who became a good friend of his, who was a trans woman who later committed suicide. And just imagine, just take that, my shitty log line, and now say like, okay, now you got to make that funny. And I think he did a really amazing job in making it funny and bringing humanity to it. And I think that, that's the mark of somebody who's a master of his craft. So I'm glad that eventually I got around to watching it, even with the controversy. And how do you feel about it? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Or
I liked it, and I did like that story. And ultimately, it made me really sad because the circumstances were, I mean, she went up, she did the set, she totally fucking bombed.
Which was great. Which is one of the funniest thing, because Dave reminds you every few minutes that she sucks so bad when she's first started in stand-up. Yeah,
like she just got up there, completely bombed it after Dave Chappelle gives you this slot. That's the dream. And so she goes up there, she totally bombs it. But then afterwards, she's backstage with Dave and all of his friends, and she's killing it. And he's just like, wait, it's not that you're not funny. It's just you're not funny on stage. And he kind of tells in the story after that he was like, you're actually funny. Like, I'll help you. I'll work with you. I'll try to
mentor you.
Yeah, to be better on stage. But then after it came out publicly that she was on stage at the Dave Chappelle show and she did this whole thing, she got, well, this is the story, which I don't doubt that it's true, that she took so much shit from the trans community that she ended up killing herself. And it's kind of tragic, because it's like, all right, this was somebody who possibly could have lived the dream. I mean, you've got Dave Chappelle willing to mentor you in your stand-up career. Like this is it. Like, you're in a room with heavy hitters, you're fucking killing it. They're laughing like you're possibly about to like live the dream, but then this other bullshit happened and she killed herself. And I just think that's really shitty. It's really sad.
Yeah. And it's something where, obviously, I want to be careful not to say, she killed herself because of, this reason. I mean, she was obviously, facing, there's a lot going on, and who knows what, her struggle was. She has she had a daughter, which, plays into the story at the end. But there is, there is something to, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just as I've gotten older and just seeing like just how delicate life is and how quickly, things change and things are, things are gone. But yeah, I hadn't been, I guess, a little fucked up in a little while from a good story, from something like that really made me sort of look inward, not only at myself as a person, but also as a comedian, someone who, gets an opportunity every now and then to get up on stage and talk to an audience,
Yeah. And it kind of also is an example of how fragile mental health can be, because I mean, I'm sure she left that gig feeling great, like feeling super good about herself. And then something happened between there and her killing herself that led to her killing herself. Like it can be something just like that quick. And it's rough, especially when you already struggle with mental health issues, of how delicate it is and how you kind of really do. It can all go really fast.
Yeah. And that's an aspect too of, of this issue that is often brought up. It's, the high suicide rate of transgender people. And it's awful, just hearing that. But then I've seen it often used as sort of as a, as a weapon. It's weaponized to be like, well, if you do not abide by, their pronouns or affirm, I guess it is. If you do not affirm, then you are partly responsible if they go and do and harm themselves. And it's like, oh man, that's a very manipulative thing, to be using. And I think it's I think it definitely takes away from, I don't know, it cheapens, I think, the struggles that these people are going through.
Yeah, because I mean, that is a serious issue. And I mean, I'm sure having gender dysmorphia is difficult, and I'm sure that does fuck with you. And I'm sure having to make those kinds of decisions about how you want to live your life and how you want to present yourself, and how just even making the decision that, I'm going to transition and I'm going to live my life as this other gender, that's hard. Like, I imagine that comes with a lot of mental struggle and a lot of mental pain. And like you said, cheapening it like that, it's just really crass and manipulative. And it doesn't address the fact that, this is hard. And these people, I mean, I say they have mental issues. I don't mean that to say that it's a bad thing, but that, of course, you go through that experience in your life, it's bound to kind of like fuck you up a little bit. And maybe instead of trying to turn it into this thing to beat people over the head with, maybe look at it in a little more gentle and concerned way and say, okay, well, what can we honestly do to help these people? Not like run around and make everybody use everybody's pronouns, because ultimately that's not going to help. Like if somebody is struggling mentally, using their correct pronouns is not going to fix the issue. I wish mental health struggles were that easy to fix, but it's this, everything just gets flattened out and two-dimensional, and it kind of robs people of their individuality and their sort of autonomy and the acknowledgement that each person, including each transgender person, is an individual person with their own struggles and are not just some avatar for your cause or just to do whatever it is that you want to do. Like, these are actual people. They're not like objects or just like things that kind of exist sort of in a murky area of not being a real human.
I do wonder if Patton Oswalt is going to have to transition now.
I don't know.
If he's sort of set himself up where it's like, all right, dude, you angered a lot of people on both sides. You angered a lot of fans of Chappelle. You angered a lot of trans people. The only way for you to win that back, is to win them back over, is to go all the way. So,
or you could just come out as queer.
Oh yeah. I've thought about that. I've thought about coming out as queer. You don't have to do anything.
I'm not even quite sure what it means anymore.
Yeah. It used to be a put down, right?
It used to mean that you were a homosexual male or a lesbian female, but now you can be queer and not be either one of those things.
To be fair, it used to be you could be a straight guy who cares about how you dress, and people would call you queer too.
Oh no, then you were just a metrosexual.
You remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
What happened with the metrosexuals? What happened?
I think they all became queer.
They all became queer. It's like all these guys who just look, I'm just really into moisturizing. And now suddenly they have to, they're put into this box, this metrosexual box.
Well, see, I don't even know if you can do that anymore because, skincare, that code's female. And, if you do things that don't code to your assigned gender, that means that you're not that gender.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy how we've regressed, back there. That's really fucked.
Yeah, it's one of the things that really bothers me about that whole conversation is just like the buying into these ultra strict traditional gender roles that say like, okay, if you do XYZ, if your daughter wants to go play with the Lincoln Logs, then she's secretly a boy. Like, no, she's just a girl that wants to go play with Lincoln Logs. It ain't that deep.
Yeah, I have a nephew, and his grandparents bought him I guess like a Malibu Barbie, like a pink kind of RV, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And my wife asked me, she's like, if it gets to the point where our son, wants a pink Malibu Barbie RV, are you okay with that? And I said, hell no. And she said, why? What if he's gay? And I'm like, I don't care if he's gay, but he's not a chick. So that's how evolved I am. That's how progressive I am, where I'm cool with my son being gay, but he's not a chick. All right. So.
I mean, he may not even associate that with being female. He just may like the color pink. Who knows? He just thinks it's like a cool truck thing, like the little Tonka trucks. It's just pink and Barbie.
We will cross that bridge when we get there. And so ridiculous. So I'm in Jersey. You're in. Are you cool telling the state that you're okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah, because sometimes like I've had friends on and they're like, I don't want to reveal too much information because of nutcases online.
It's in my Twitter bio. That's public knowledge.
Yeah, or they don't want to tell me. They're like, yeah, Lou, you're my friend and all, but I really don't want you to know.
I don't want you to know where I live.
Yeah, or anything like that. Are you born and raised in Atlanta?
Nope, born and raised in South Florida. I moved up here about 15 years ago now.
Nice. It's so weird to hear you say moved up here to Atlanta because I'm in the north. I'm in New Jersey.
Yeah,
so everything is just
down.
Yeah.
No, I actually went up, and I like it here, but I'm kind of at the point in my life where I'm like, I can technically within reason financially live about wherever I want. So
nice.
If I move from here, well, I mean, my job is portable, so I don't really have to worry about if I move. I got to go find another job, which is usually the thing that keeps people from moving because then you got to figure out all those logistics. So I'm kind of thinking like, I don't know. I'm going to go like look at some places maybe. I don't know this year. The thing about 2022 is the one thing we learned from 2021 is don't make plans for anything. Just don't, because they're going to get ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what people are doing with the whole Omicron thing. Things have been pretty much the same as they've been down here in Georgia, but I know a lot of other places are kind of starting to freak out. I don't know if they're doing lockdowns. Right. People are bringing back the masks. It's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I keep hearing more and more, family members and friends testing positive for it, but they're doing okay. They're, a lot of them saying like, yeah, I got a, sore throat and it kind of sucks, but, overall I'm doing okay. And I think that that's yet another example of, sort of what's happened here in the country where it's like, it's something to be happy about. I think that, we finally got to a variant that, isn't taking people out like the other ones were. And,
Yeah, I've had a lot of people that I know test positive, and it's been like the same thing where either they're completely asymptomatic or they're like, yeah, it kind of sucked for a couple days. And then there's some people like, yeah, it kind of sucked for like a week. And so it's like, it kind of seems kind of the way that like the flu affects people differently. This is affecting vaccinated people differently. But if it's a situation, especially once like we get that the therapeutics online, the at-home ones, the ones from Pfizer, I know they just got the EUA on that, the emergency use authorization. So once this gets to a point where like, okay, I think I have COVID. Okay, I do an at-home test, I test positive. All right, then I'll call the doctor, go get a PCR, and then get a script for some pills to take at home. I'm not altering my life for that anymore. Like that's like if I can just treat it, like I can't even go and do that for the cold. Like I can't go to the doctor and get tested for the cold and get some pills to get rid of the cold.
Oh yeah, so that orange juice. Yeah, just get some orange juice, some soup.
Yeah. But yeah, when it becomes something like that where it's just entirely manageable if I do get it, then yeah, I'm not seeing a reason to continue to do anything over and above just normal precautionary stuff. Like I'm not, and we're there. Like if you're vaccinated, you don't have a lot to worry about with COVID right now. And like, I know for a fact, after I got my first round, my 2 shots, I was exposed to somebody who had Delta and I felt absolutely nothing, not a twinge, not a sneeze, not a cough, nothing. So I feel pretty good about my vaccine working correctly. It's done pretty well so far, and I have gotten the booster shot. So, I mean, I'm fairly confident that if I do get it, it's going to be one of the mild cases, and I can kind of work around that. It's not something that's going to put me in the hospital. I'm going to die. And so, yeah, I'm ready to basically at this point just treat it like another illness that I have to worry about seasonally and just keep on keeping on. Like I don't like it's not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear. So you either learn to live with it or you just keep skipping holiday seasons. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the weird things that's happened is, since so much attention has been paid to COVID, is that you forget that there are other sicknesses. There are other things out there that you can catch. And that's what happened with my family, that our whole, all 4 of us came down with a, RSV, which is a respiratory virus. And it sucks. Like it really sucks no matter what age you are, but the younger you are, like it's dangerous. So my youngest was, we had to, take him to the emergency room. He was a 9 weeks old, and it's like, you have to monitor him and all that. And, it's like, how is that even possible? I thought the only thing out there was this COVID thing, but you're telling me that there are viruses, that they're scabs, they're not in the COVID union, and they are, they're breaking, they're
crossing the picket line.
Yeah, crossing the picket line and going and infesting, infecting people. So it's just like there were so many times where it's just, getting my ass kicked by like, I had there was this 1 week where I had pain in my lower back and it was all up my spine, and I take a test. No COVID. And I'm like, well, what the fuck, man?
I'm sick. It has to be COVID.
When am I getting this thing? Just come on, come at me, man. You're in it must be an exciting, position to be in, where you have so many opportunities, so many places that that you can go. Do you have a like sort of a bucket list? Is there a place where you're like, you know what, I could spend some time there? Like,
Well, I mean, the dream would be to live in New York City, but to do that, I'd have to live in a shoebox and share a bathroom with like 4 people. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like DC, but again, financially speaking, we're not talking all that much cheaper than New York City, but
Right.
mainly I want to move. I would stay on the East Coast, definitely. Maybe move a little further north just because like all my friends are in DC and New York City. So maybe moving a little closer to them, I can see them a little more often, but that's all kind of up in the air. But yeah, so it's like, I'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. Stay away from winter up north. We're dealing with it right now. We're kind of, we're all, sort of getting over our illnesses, and there's snow, but it's not fun snow because it just sucks. It's so cold, and we're just kind of like stuck indoors and rebreathing the same the same air,
germy air.
Yeah, the same germy air. Like, what's the next virus that's gonna hit us? It would be wonderful to be in a position where it's like, cold months. All right, I'm getting out of here. We're going somewhere where it's not 70 degrees all the time or something like that.
Well, you can always do what everyone else is doing and move to Florida or Texas.
Right. I've been seeing a lot of that. Very humid in Florida. The humidity, that's what gets you.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely does. And the hurricanes, those are not fun. When you get to go without power for a week after a hurricane and it's extremely humid outside because everything is wet because you just had a hurricane. Yeah, I grew up with that. It was not fun, but overall, South Florida is fun. I mean, you could do Central or North Florida. Like, I know a lot of people are doing, like, Austin's become very trendy.
Right.
Like, Dallas is kind of trendy, but you could always move south.
I want to go where the metrosexuals have retired to. I want to go to that town. I want to see that town.
I think that's Miami.
All right. Well, then Miami it is. That's where we're going to go. Jen, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And before we leave, please plug away and let us know where we can see your stuff.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the podcast, Ambitious Crossover Attempt. You can find that on, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon/Audible. There's a couple of other smaller platforms it's on too, if you poke around. We are still working on YouTube, but we will be doing that soon. For me personally, you can find me on Twitter at that Jen Monroe. You can find me at Substack at jenmonroe.substack.com. You can occasionally find me on Instagram at Jen the Libertarian. I do post there occasionally, not a lot because I don't like taking selfies. But yeah, I think that about sums that up.
Don't take any selfies with Dave Chappelle.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Again, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. That would be lovely. Keep your eye out for my book, my forthcoming book, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. And please sign up for my newsletter at thelouperez.com. And if you want to support my work, join the Lou Perez community on Locals. That's thelouperez.locals.com. You'll get access to all my stuff before anybody else, as well as exclusive content, and of course, me. Be sure to support my sponsors, PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Use promo code LOU for 25% off purchases over $75, and Black Organic Cold Brew, BLVCKBREW.com. Promo code LOU for free shipping. Okay, I'm going to keep that in.